begin with a story. It's about a classic experiment in social psychology. It was done many years ago at the Princeton Theological Seminary with divinity students. Each student was told that they're going to give a practice sermon. They'd receive a topic to prepare, and then they go to another building and give the sermon to be evaluated. Half of the students were given the parable of the Good Samaritan as their topic, the man who stopped to help the stranger in need by the side of the road. The other half were given random Bible topics. As each divinity student went over to the other building to give their sermon, they passed a man who was bent over and moaning in pain. The interesting question is, did they stop to help?
It's very common among highly creative people, both artists and scientists.
What do you think?
And I'd like to give it
Didn't matter. Made no difference at all. What mattered was how much time pressure people felt they were under. And this is more or less the story of our lives. There's a spectrum that runs from noticing the other person, to tuning into the other person, to empathizing and understanding what's going on with them. And then if they're in need and there's something we can do, compassion, maybe help. But if we never notice in the first place, we never go down. And this is the problem with attention today. It's under siege. I think the moment I knew we were in trouble was a while back before I started writing the book, Focus. I was on my way to a meeting. I was driving. I live out in the country in New England. I was late, but I was wanting people there to know I was coming. So as I was driving, I was texting them on my way. That's rather horrible because it turns out, as I read not very long after that, that texting while driving is the same as drinking while driving. It's really bad. In fact, in my state, it's outlawed now. Another thing I've noticed is when I was writing the book, I'd be kind of on a riff, really in flow, writing well, then I'd have to look something up. So I go to Google Scholar. I love Google Scholar because it gives you access to the academic database. So I open my web browser, and my web browser presents me with the news of the day. And I'm a news junkie. So all of a sudden, I start reading news stories, and before I know it, I've been lost. 15, 20 minutes has gone by before I realized that, oh, I was supposed to be looking that up. And today, we're all in the same boat, in that the tools that we use, our computer, our phone, and so on, are also devised to interrupt us, to seduce us, to draw our attention from this to that. And usually under that is trying to sell us something, a pop-up ad or whatever. But attention is besieged in a way that has never been true before. When I was going around to publishers and telling them I wanted to write about attention, one publisher said to me, "That's wonderful. We'd love to have that book, but could you keep it short?" So what happened to us? In 2007, Time magazine, a major American publication, had a small article that said there's a new word in the English language. The word is pizzled. It's a combination of puzzled and pissed off. And it refers to the moment when you're with someone who takes out their BlackBerry and starts talking to someone else and ignoring you. In 2007, that was unusual. But the word pizzled has died with the BlackBerry, because now that's the new social norm. You go out to a dinner, very romantic restaurant, you see a couple together, and they're both looking at their phones instead of into each other's eyes. Something has happened to us. In 1977, Nobel Prize winner Herbert Simon wrote, very prescient, he said, "Information consumes attention. Hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." I think we've entered a time when we're in danger of attentional impoverishment. And the signs of it are more than, a couple watching their looking at their phone instead of into each other's eyes. The other day I saw a mom holding a little toddler, and the toddler's trying to get her attention, and she's busy texting. She's just not available. And, of course, Dad's the same story. I was on a vacation island last summer, Martha's Vineyard, off the coast of New England, and I was taking a taxi from the ferry to my house, and I happened to share it with 7 sorority sisters, college students, who were going for a weekend together. And we got in it was a shared taxi, a big van, and we got in the taxi, and within a minute or two, every one of the sorority sisters was staring into a screen, iPhone, iPad, but they weren't talking to each other. And I think this is a real loss. The ingredients of rapport are 3. The first is full mutual attention. From that full attention comes a second ingredient. It's a nonverbal synchrony. If you look at 2 people who are really in rapport, really connecting, if you were to make a video of that and watch it in silence, the 2 bodies look as though they're choreographed. This is something that's managed by a category of brain cell called oscillators. Oscillators govern how we respond to someone else, how we respond to physical objects. Oscillators are very important for the survival of the human species. Consider this. At the moment of a first kiss, they determine the velocity at which 2 skulls come together. And if they get it wrong, it would be the end of the species, I'm sure. The third ingredient, after the full attention and the nonverbal synchrony, is that it feels good. It's a rather pleasant, joyous state to connect with someone that well. These